Oh, hello everybody. Happy Halloween. I'm your host, the Lad with the Plaid. Today, we are going to be doing something very special for this Halloween episode, part 1 and part 2. Instead of doing one drawing, we are going to be doing several drawings. We're going to make a top 10 list. And I know, many people have done top 10 lists. But this top 10 list is a little different. I've never really seen anybody talk about it now. When we were children, we looked at villains and scary monsters and looked at all those other things, and they were scary. But when we're older, we look back at it and say, it's not as scary as I thought it was. But instead, I ask you to suspend your disbelief and try to take a look back at all of the villains and all of the monsters and all of the scary things when you were a child, and look at them at today's perspective. Some of them are actually downright creepy, sadistic, and even scary. In today's episode, we are going to be doing just that. This is the top 10 villains that are scarier now than they were back then. Now, this is how things are going to work. I'm going to name you the villain, and I'm going to show you a file of what they did. And we're going to start looking at the sketches in the process. With that being said, let's take a look at our number 10 spot. Let's follow down the yellow brick road to find the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. Both in the book and in the famous 1939 film, she has a fierce reputation. Now, I will be honest though, I say the movie's witch is a lot more terrifying. The book isn't bad, it's one of the greatest books in children's literature. It's just the witch in that one didn't make much of a stronger presence than in the movie. Besides not liking Dorothy, as a kid, the Wicked Witch scared us because of two big reasons. One is the appearance. Her sickly green skin and all black attire, along with her nasty attitude, makes her character very unsettling and uncomfortable to be around. As soon as she appears on screen, your 3-year-old self is already horrified by her contrasting looks. The second reason is the people she is in control over. The novel and movie shows she is in control of the flying monkeys and the Winky soldiers, and both sets of henchmen look and act incredibly frightening, especially knowing as a kid that they work for her and what they can do given the chance. As an adult and thinking about it deeper, both in the book and in the movie, this woman is deeply committed to her title. In the book, she is in control of an entire section of Oz and have enslaved the inhabitants there. She also has monsters and beasts at her very command and will also straight up destroy anybody who comes into her territory. In the movie, however, she is not only in control of the west section of Oz, but she strikes fear in everybody, even the wizard himself. Also, I don't think anybody ever came across this idea, but her death is scary as well. I mean, you get to see the whole process. It is slow, and I bet in her situation it is painful. Her body has been splashed by water, her one weakness, that probably burns like acid, and is slowly liquefying into witch goop and dirty laundry while her minions and enemies watch her die. That's embarrassing and tragic. Oh well, she still strikes fears in the hearts of Ozites and in the hearts of young viewers. The Wicked Witch of the West, a villain who really brings down the house. At the number 9 spot, this is the only handicap villain we have, but still twice as dangerous. This is Captain James Hook from Peter Pan. As a kid, Captain Hook was probably the first pirate we ever came across of. Before Long John Silver, before Blackbeard, he was the guy. He was the man. And what made him so scary in Peter Pan? Well, as a kid, he's a pirate. Need I say more? Oh, alright. He also has a hook for a hand. A hook for a hand. A weapon. Also, in the novel and in most movie adaptations, he kidnaps the Lost Boys and Wendy to make them walk the plank. Think about that. That's a pirate punishment where you're tied up and you have to walk on a plank of wood towards the edge and then get thrown off into the water and drown. Now, as an adult, looking back on him, besides scaring children and kidnapping and them stuff, that's still bad, but What makes him scary is that he represents us as adults. Growing up is a scary thing. If you ever read Peter Pan or ever looked into the movies Peter Pan at a very critical level, you could tell that the movies, the book, and even the play itself is a metaphor of time. Peter Pan is time at a standstill, in a sense of childhood and stuff like that. Hook, on the other hand, represents time is running out. He is an adult. Peter hates adults. And this poor soul has lost his hand, has a giant crocodile follow him around, wanting to eat the rest of him. And this was also where the metaphor of time comes in. As soon as you hear that ticking in the crocodile, you know that time is slowly running out. But not to mention, Hook is endangering the lives of children just to get his way. He's also very universally smart, if you think about it. In every adaptation, he manipulates people to get his way, including Peter himself in one adaptation, the 2003 live-action film. And in the book as well, he's very manipulative, he's very conniving, he's very deceitful. But nonetheless, he is still a great villain. Captain James Hook, where fighting a kid in tights is a very serious matter. At number 8, this man from Paris still has us ask the question, who is the monster and who is the man? Judge Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This poor man, you take a look at him. As a kid, you don't know what to think of him. All you know is that he's the bad guy because, well, he looks like a bad guy. He's got a thin, frail face. He has this angry look at him, but still. As a child, what scared us about him is mainly his appearance and how he treats Quasimodo. He treats Quasimodo like dirt even though he technically raised him. Of course, in the novel, he was a little more difficult. You see, in the novel, he was a Catholic priest, thus making the conflict of having lust over Esmeralda and also trying to be a good priest and trying to be a good man for God a lot more difficult. In this version, he's a judge. Why? Well, let's just say Disney and the Catholic Church wouldn't be on good terms if they kept with the original source material. But as an adult, now that we look back at this, he's a pretty sick man. He claims that he's wanting to purge the world of sin and corruption, but the only problem is he can't see within himself. He thinks that he's always right, and also, one of his biggest goals in life is to get rid of the gypsies. An entire group of people just because they're gypsies. But as soon as Esmeralda comes around, he starts to have lustful feelings for her. In the famous musical number Hellfire, in the song, he sings about how he's tormented by having the lust for Esmeralda, but also how he wants to actually stay the way he is, in that he's supposed to be a soldier for God. And what makes him even more scary as an adult is that we know people like this. There are some who would make cults, there are some who do killings in the name of religion. It's actually quite tragic. There are people like that who do take the faith and religion and God way too far. Judge Frollo, when Christianity slides far off the cross. At number 7, we have a very unusual villain. He's not a man, a woman, or even a monster. He's a kid. This is Sid Phillips from Toy Story. As a kid, we just see him as the typical next-door bully. He's mean, he's ruthless, he destroys our childhood toys just for the fun of it. He doesn't care. And for some odd reason, in the 90s, bullies were a big thing in kids' movies. Why? Why does every child in America have to deal with bullies? Not everybody gets picked on. Seriously. But of course, a lot of people would probably think Sid is a bully. To the toys, he is. He's a big bully. But human-wise, he never once picked on anybody else other than his sister. He never even made fun of Andy. But as an adult, we could see him as more of a troubled child. Of course, as a child, from our eyes, is like, this kid's got an issue because he steals toys, tortures them, or he takes them apart, or put them in different objects like lava lamps and grills and so on, and kills them as well. And as adults, a lot of us can probably think that's not too bad, is because there were a lot of people who grew up destroying their own toys and not be like Andy who just plays with them. But now we get to, as an adult, what makes him scary is that he's a victim of his own circumstance. Is that if you ever look in the movies, he comes from a very troubled home.
The house doesn't look that great. It looked like it's still stuck in the 70s. It hasn't updated yet. Sid's mother in the movie, if you ever hear her, she only probably gets about maybe 2 or 3 lines. It sounds like a hard-working mother who can only provide for her 2 children. And where's Sid's father? Well, you only see him once in the movie, laying on a recliner, sleeping. And you see cans everywhere. Now, if you do take a look at him, it does say root beer and soda and stuff like that. But if it wasn't even there, it still can be hinted at that either A, Sid's dad is an alcoholic, or B, his father is just a lazy bum who won't go to work, who won't find a job or anything like that, and the mom is trying everything she can to provide for her children. Either way, as an adult, what makes him scary, he comes from a broken home, and this is pretty sad. Not every child is like this, but a lot of children who come from broken homes might end up getting influenced by the wrong kind of people. But thankfully, Woody and Buzz did change his life around, even if that meant scaring the pants off of him. Sid Phillips, whose antics go towards infinity and beyond. At number 6, this woman gives a whole new meaning to the term Dragon Lady. This is Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. Now, of course, as a child, she scared us by her appearance, just like the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz. It's just something about wearing all black, it just scares us. It's so terrifying. Not to mention her design. The horns of the devil, bat wings around her neck, and her whole dress looks like flames. Plus, she has a very chilling voice by Eleanor Audley. And as a kid, we kind of know it's a basic fairy tale is that she didn't get invited to the christening of the child, and thus she enacts revenge. As an adult, we look back at that as like, this is a very petty thing to do. I mean, yes, it's sad that you didn't get invited, but is it really worth cursing the child? Why not curse the parents? I don't know. There's something about villains that always wanted to get rid of the children first. They always want to attack the next generation. Why not attack the parents? They're the ones who did it. But other than that, she is actually a very cool villain. And I know some people are wondering why isn't she at the very top of the list. Well, concerning Disney villains, she definitely will be. But for other villains, her motive is pretty petty. I mean, I'm not saying that the way she acts and her motives, how stern, how cold, how ruthless she is, and also, just to add fact, she could turn into a fire-breathing dragon anytime she wants. I'm not saying that's all bad. It's just, compared to other villains, she's at the other side. But she's going to be at a higher list if I do Disney villains. I promise you. Maleficent, where Unleash the Beast is not the best thing to ask her.